Good day. Welcome to Dutchess Talk Radio. Dutchess Talk Radio, produced by Sharc Creative, made possible by Robeson Oil, the house that service built, by Hightower Westchester, managing your wealth to a fiduciary standard all throughout the Hudson Valley, and by ENT Allergy and Associates in Poughkeepsie. Here on What's Happening in the Lower Hudson Valley, John Marino, joined by Dutchess County Executive Marc Molinaro, Congressman-elect in the 19th District in a region including Dutchess County, the Mid-Hudson Valley, and moving all the way up into the central part of New York State. Marc Molinaro, welcome back. Congratulations. And I know you ran for Congress a few months back in the 19th District as well. In a special election, you came up a few votes short. What was the difference this time?
Well, this time I got more votes than the other guy. Last time I got too few votes. August 23rd is not a time that most people know to vote. And frankly, it was difficult to get our message out and to motivate people to show up. And of course, it was respectfully only a few weeks after the Dobbs decision, which undid Roe v. Wade. And there was a motivation among certainly a good number of voters that just propelled Pat Ryan to winning in August. I, of course, though, we both did ultimately win in separate districts in November. And I'm honored to now begin in just a few days representing the people of the 19th Congressional District.
What was, for voters in this district this time, you talked about the Roe v. Wade decision back during the summer. What was the motivation this time that made a difference?
Well, I think, listen, November of this year was a more traditional midterm election. So first, it is always midterm elections are always about checks and balances against the administration, whether it's for or against the party in power in the White House. But you know as well as I do, and we heard this because we live it, and I've lived it personally. Cost of living, crime, and opportunity. Cost of living, inflation, or compounding what is already a high cost of living here in New York. You know, in upstate New York, we shoulder the highest burden of taxation of any people in America. Add to that 15, 16, 25, 35% increase in costs due to inflation. And that burden is just too great. People need relief, and they were voting for that relief. Crime policies out of Albany and Washington that really have undermined public safety, made it more difficult for law enforcement to do their work. And people see that in their lives and in the news. And frankly, it is alarming and concerning, and they want change. They want us to confront that. It's the fundamental responsibility of government providing for public safety. And then lastly, this is a part of the state that knows what it's like to be ignored by government, by politicians, by businesses and employers. And so the loss of opportunity, whether it's in schools, making sure our kids are getting educated for the jobs that we have, or it's employers leaving the state, leaving the region. People want their government to work for them. And I believe that motivated and ultimately propelled us to win in November. But it's a hefty responsibility, and I get it. We've got to bring about relief and change for people who have earned it and deserve it.
Now, Lee Zeldin came pretty close as a Republican in his race for governor, and the House of Representatives turning Republican now, away from Democrat in the new session that starts in January. New York State seemed to be the key. Lots of turnover from Democrat to Republican, especially in the Hudson Valley. A, did the Democrats, with the first redistricting model that they put forward, overplay their hand? And B, did maybe Sean Patrick Maloney overplay his hand because he could have stayed in the district where he was further up the Hudson Valley? He moved into Rockland County Centric District to take on Mike Lawler. Might things have turned out differently throughout the Hudson Valley on both sides of the aisle had Sean Patrick Maloney not done this?
Now, coulda, woulda, shoulda. I try not to be a pundit, but what I will say to you is, to borrow a phrase that's probably apropos, the Democrats in Albany did jump the shark. They engaged in what is clearly partisan gerrymandering. They thought that since they were one party in ultimate control of New York State government, they thought that their actions, which clearly were unconstitutional, would get overlooked by the courts, and they would have imposed this massively partisan a set of new districts. Of course, that was undone by the New York State Court of Appeals. We now have what are congressional districts that are clearly more balanced, and that definitely made the playing field more level for candidates like myself all across the district, all across New York. Now, to the point, either by design or default, New Yorkers and Americans have asked for a balanced government. They want more balanced approach. They elected Republican voices in congressional seats all across the state to counteract and to counterbalance what they see as single party rule, formerly in Washington and still in Albany. And it's our job, Republicans and Democrats, to make government work for people. So I hope that Albany politicians are listening. They weren't given a free pass. They clearly were told that there needs to be more balance. And I'm going to be respectful in that, but I'm going to make sure that the voice of upstate New York is heard in Albany and Washington.
So once you get to D.C., what's job one? What's the game plan for Marc Molinaro?
Well, we've got to rein in reckless spending. It's going on right now, this omnibus package, this massive spending. There will be plenty of things that people like. There'll be thousands upon thousands of things that we don't even know about, mostly because the bill was printed early this morning and they're voting tonight. So when you're watching and listening to this, it might be days ago, it might be a few weeks ago, whenever. But just understand that that Washington doesn't appreciate that it's not their money, it's your money, the taxpayers' money. I understand that, and that's job one. Now, we might not be able to stop it all, but we want to slow it down and ensure that the dollars we spend are efficient, effective, and get the results we expect. So holding the line on spending is priority, driving down and reining in inflation, important and critical. For me, it's also ensuring that we provide support for law enforcement and public safety. That means, by the way, investing in mental health and intervention services and making sure that we're addressing drug treatment, but that we're also giving local law enforcement and prosecutors the tools to keep us safe. We've got to secure our border. Thousands upon thousands of individuals flowing into this country, and with it, we have a humanitarian crisis at our border. And we have an invasion of fentanyl, China to drug cartels into America. That's ultimately taking lives. The administration has to take that seriously. They're not, and we're going to demand that they do it. And with that, by the way, is the fundamental responsibility of the House of Representatives to provide the oversight, the accountability necessary within government. I think that's important. But let me tell you, job one is just giving voice to and responding to the residents of this district. You deserve to have your member of Congress fighting for you. So no matter the problem, no matter the issue, large or small, our job and what we are doing is establishing the staff, making sure we have the team ready to hit the ground running to be your voice and your representative, and ultimately your conduit to overcoming the challenges and the problems you face.
You mentioned Pat Ryan a few minutes ago. Pat Ryan, the Ulster County executive elected to Congress in the 18th district. He's the Democrat, Pat Ryan. And you've worked together very well through the years, as you have with all the county executives throughout the Hudson Valley. Does this change the relationship between you and Pat Ryan? Can the two of you become a model for how Democrats and Republicans can work together if they want to?
Well, I've spent every day of my adult life working with Republicans and Democrats to get stuff done. That does not change when I get to the House. I mean, I believe that we've been elected to govern, and that means working both within our party with the people with whom we agree and across that aisle. And so the relationship for me doesn't change. Pat and I have talked a few times. I'm hopeful we can find some common ground on issues. I think that we do share certain perspectives that I think will benefit this region and the state of New York. But I'll work with anyone who's honest and earnest about solving a problem. And so I look forward to working with Pat and my Democratic colleagues across this country to truly improve the overall quality of life and character of community for the people who call America and this part of New York State home.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. Now, we here in this part of the country are looked at a certain way by other parts of the country. Can, let's say you and Pat working together in a bipartisan manner, convince folks in other parts of the country that maybe sometimes a little more attention to this part of the country needs to be given to us because our needs here are different than, let's say, Oklahoma?
Well, everyone deserves that. And so and by the way, I've said this to people who say, well, why, what do you have to say about this person elected in that place? We don't like them. Listen, the voters there elected that person. That person has the same right to be at the table as I do based on their election, their voters. That's the way it works. I don't get to choose who Oklahoma sends to the House of Representatives. So we have to work with everybody. That's important. And everyone deserves to have their government represent and respond to them. A long answer to your short question. And that is, I hope so. I mean, yes, there are parts of this country where they look to New York and they think we're all New York City. And therefore, in their mind, they don't think we need more attention or representation. But there are whole parts of the state, and I believe I represent a segment of New York State that often is overlooked. And it's our job to work together to make sure this government works for the people I represent.
Once you go to D.C., we'll have a new county executive. Who will that be? Tell us about him.
Sure. So my deputy county executive, Bill O'Neill, will become acting county executive until the end of next year. There will be an election, as there would have been anyway, November 2023. Bill is a dedicated public servant. He worked for my predecessor, but comes to county government 20 years ago from the private sector. But these last 11 years, he's been basically my chief of staff. He's administered county government, overseen the day-to-day operations of county government. He's passionate about the work that we've done. He wants to finish the vision and the work that we've engaged in. He'll carve his own path as well, but he's going to be a great steward of county government. He understands the role and the responsibility of being a good public servant. And I think residents are going to come to enjoy his leadership. Now, he has said, and he's living by it, he has no interest in seeking the office. He's not going to run, no interest in being an elected official. He'll administer, he'll run this county government, lead this county over the course of the next year. And then, of course, the voters of Dutchess County will select their next county executive.
Knowing what you have to do now and what lies ahead for you, how much mentoring can you provide for the new county executive?
Well, the good news is I don't have to provide any mentoring to Bill O'Neill. We've worked together collaboratively. We've learned from each other, and he's more than prepared to continue. I am, however, on the other end of a phone or a text anytime when there's a question. And I've said that to him and to the people who work for him. If they want me to intervene to be of some help, I'm going to do it. But I'm very respectful of this, even though it's sort of my deputy succeeding me for a brief period of time. There's one elected representative at a time. It's his right, his responsibility, his opportunity to do the job. I'm not going to interfere. But I love this community. I've served 29 years in state and local government representing the people of this community. And so I'll be available to him and to his successor when there are questions. My goal is to be helpful, but not to interfere. It's not my right to, but I'll be here always to provide help and to moderate if necessary, when necessary.
Your phone is on 24/7, right?
It is. And I say that, by the way, regardless of who it is, you say that sort of jokingly. My phone is on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I respond at all hours of the day. Sometimes I might wake up in the middle of the night, respond to a text, and people wonder, what I'm doing. But listen, it's the job. It's a responsibility to be accessible. And that includes being accessible to those other elected officials, as I hope to be accessible to the people I serve as well.
Same happens to me. Mine is on 24/7. Sometimes I wish maybe I should change my number, and people say, why don't you? And I say, too many people have it. So
exactly,
we can't do that. So all the best to you, Marc Molinaro, down in Washington, D.C. Thank you for all you've done as the county executive here in Dutchess. You pointed out that you've been in elected office and in government for almost 30 years. You were first elected as a young teenager mayor of Tivoli. In northwestern Dutchess County, correct?
Long time ago, 1995, actually 94, I was elected a trustee at the age of 18. A year later, mayor of Tivoli at 19. Best job. I loved it. I learned a lot. It's actually one of the things that I think everybody who holds elected office should serve at that level. You interact with people immediately. Your decisions have direct impacts. You're always on. You're always responsive. You always have to be in the community. You can't lie to people because they figure it out pretty quickly. And you learn that not only do your decisions have real impacts on real people, but as we used to say in Tivoli, when the roof leaks, it leaks on Republicans and Democrats. And it's the job of government not to blame somebody for why it leaks, not to pass the responsibility to fix the roof to somebody else. Our job is to simply fix the roof.
From Tivoli to the county executive's office, down to D.C. now, and who knows what the future holds too. Marc Molinaro, all the best. We'll talk again in a different capacity, and you'll keep us updated what happens down in D.C. and locally around the Hudson Valley too.
Happy to. Glad to be with you again. Thanks.
Thank you, Marc. All the best. Happy holidays to you and yours.
You as well.
Thank you. Marc Molinaro here on Dutchess Talk Radio. And again, our thanks to Dutchess County Executive and Congressman-elect in the 19th District of the Hudson Valley, Marc Molinaro, here on Dutchess Talk Radio, produced by Sharc Creative. I'm John Marino, and this is what's happening in the Lower Hudson Valley. Made possible by Robeson Oil, the house that Service built. Also by Hightower Westchester, managing your wealth to a fiduciary standard all throughout the Hudson Valley. And by ENT, Allergy and Associates in Poughkeepsie. Catch all of our Dutchess, Orange, Rockland, Putnam, Westchester, and Fairfield County Talk Radio programming on our YouTube channel, Sharc Creative YouTube, and yes, we are now on Apple Podcasts too.